from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being here.
Thank you for your time.
I'll now turn to online testimony from Mr. Patrick Ford. You can start your video and present your testimony whenever you are ready. Mr. Ford, please unmute yourself as well. Mr. Ford, you are on mute. Thank you.
There you go. First of all, good morning, and my apologies for not being there today. I live just south of Worcester, Massachusetts, and it's been an adventure the last day or two. So I would have preferred to have done this in person and actually meet you and thank you in person. My name is Pat Ford, and I am on something called the Libertarian National Committee, which serves in a similar capacity as the RNC and DNC to their respective parties. And I effectively represent on the national board what we call Region 8, which is all of New England, New Jersey, and New York. I get another thanks, if you will, for the professional manner in which this committee conducts itself. Your highly professional staff walked us through it so that I could testify remotely. And quite frankly, the fact that you have a hybrid approach where folks can testify in person or remotely, as well as on writing, speaks to what I'll call the main way in the political sense. I rise in support of this legislation. The main way has always led Maine to be provocatively politically independent. Your embrace of ranked choice voting, the split congressional district, and now a reasonable common sense approach to party registration being placed before committee speaks to a desire to have active participation by viewpoints across Maine in the political and election process. Nationally, states have worked overtime, and I support this, to increase the level of voter participation to make it easier for voting. But at the same time, if in fact those same states, and New York comes to mind, make it more difficult, if you will, for candidates to enroll and engage in the process and provide additional choice to their residents, that acts in our sense as a real form of voter suppression. Fortunately, Maine has not embraced this. 5,000, if you will, registrants is a reasonable approach to ensuring both opportunity and choice for the voting public, not just for voting, but to be able to obtain alternative perspectives, alternative viewpoints. At the same time, it essentially requires a level of party organization that prevents, well, if you will, dithering or confusion or chaos in the party process. I've had the opportunity several times to petition across Maine, and while I've loved every minute of it, as the Maine chair pointed out, it's an expensive, tedious progress. I know I would prefer, whether I'm a voter or myself involved in a political party, to spend that time engaging with Maine voters as to the pertinent issues that are important both to the state of Maine and issues within, as well as nationally during the presidential process. So I hope in passing this, you'll give me an opportunity in the coming summers to spend my time around Maine, engaging with voters, enjoying some of the most beautiful, if you will, vacation spots on the planet, and at the same time promote sort of a politically provocative environment where differences in opinion can be held intelligently, and real emphasis on information to the voters is, as opposed to in other states, the bureaucracy of just simply getting on the ballot. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak remotely, and I hope you'll rise in support of this legislation. And again, allow Maine to be really tops in the nation and being, as I call it, provocatively political in the Maine way. Thank you very much. And I'm available for any questions as I do represent the National Party.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Ford. Are there any questions from the committee? Chair recognizes Representative Reisman.
Thank you for testifying. Do you know in other states on the minimum side what the number of signature requirements are? Just not all of them, just ones that might be below 5,000?
Yeah. Well, actually, there are a handful of states out there where literally a few hundred and showing up and writing a small check will get you on the ballot. It's difficult to answer your question because across much of the nation, this is a moving target that varies widely depending on the political players in place, if you will. New York has been all over the place. The Libertarian Party has managed to continue to achieve ballot status, but we're going through another iteration where, it's like Lucy taking the football, the goalposts have been moved and we're scrambling for yet another battle. So it's literally all over the way. I live in Rhode Island, where you're given two chances. You have to either get 5% of either a presidential or a gubernatorial race, which alternate every 2 years, or you can get tens of thousands of signatures. This would place Maine squarely in the middle to the side of being open to third-party registrations is probably the best way that I can describe it. It's a patchwork quilt of laws literally around the nation. We actually have a full-time committee with 3 people who are focused solely on watching the laws and watching the changing laws. If you're an independent or a third-party grassroots movement like the Libertarian Party is, this occupies a major part of your life and a major part of our budget. And like I said, we'd rather talk to Maine voters and spend time with Maine voters so that we can understand and support the state of Maine. So I know that's not, it probably doesn't directly answer your question, but that's actually part of the challenge we face on a daily basis. We'll spend close to $1 million on ballot access this year.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Andrews with another question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you think that the 10,000 threshold versus the 5,000 threshold, that 10,000 signatures would be kind of cost prohibitive in a very large, mostly rural state like Maine, just logistic wise?
Absolutely. And again, I've actually, in 3 different election periods, I've actually petitioned myself in Maine. So I've sat outside of the whole paycheck, as we call it, in downtown Portland and met a number of your citizens, some of whom were welcoming, others maybe less so. But it is entirely cost prohibitive. Part of the function of the registration drive, when you're actually just getting signatures for voting, for ballot access, as opposed to this approach, which will be much more permanent, and is that we literally have to take, if we don't have ballot access, we literally have to take all our signed petition forms, bring them to your couple of thousand beautiful small towns across Maine by hand, and then bring them back to Augusta to get to get them processed. It's an incredibly complex process, and it can take us months to accomplish this. Bringing it down to 5,000 registrants is approachable, and I think a very nice balancing act between the need to have some order and semblance of order in the voting process, but at the same time, allow independent third-party grassroots movements to, if you will, to flourish and create more opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. The chair recognizes Representative Supika.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Ford. In your testimony, you mentioned ways that Maine has opened up opportunities. I was curious if the National Libertarian Party had an official position on ranked choice voting, since you mentioned it in your testimony.
Generally, I should say we aggressively support it. Obviously, different states are taking different nuances to ranked choice voting, but we believe ranked choice voting to be a primary method of allowing individual voters in states like Maine to not be burdened by this whole urban myth that you're wasting your vote on a third party. We want people to look at the field of battle, if you will, politically, and look at it as an opportunity, not feel like they have to safely use their vote. It's challenging because across the nation, the media, when they interview us, and I get interviewed a lot, they constantly ask us, you have no choice. Why are you running? Well, that's not a great outlook. The outlook should be focused on issues, not handicapping elections. And unfortunately, that becomes pervasive in every state. We aggressively campaigned in the 2020 campaign. I was actually responsible for communications and also a campaign swing for our presidential candidates in 2020. We did 4 cities in Maine and in a space of about 2 days, and spent a lot of time from as far north as Bangor and as far south as Portland. And your ranked choice voting made sense to us to do that because on a logistical level, we could meet voters who would have a chance not to fall into that trap where they would see they're wasting our vote. I think it's a great system for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Ford from the committee at this time? Seeing none, we appreciate you zooming in today and offering your expertise on the matter before us. Is there anyone